Now that you have a proposal, it's time to start working on your rough draft. I'll give you some tips and some tricks to make this as easy as possible. I wouldn't have you do a proposal unless I thought it would help you immensely with the rough draft, and this lesson gives you some tips on how to do that. So if you've read over this page, you can skip over the next couple of seconds here. I do explain a little bit more about the page that you see before you on the screencast. When you start writing the paper, you want to write the research paper one step at a time. Don't worry about whether you feel ready to write the whole thing. Just view each Roman numeral section as a goal you can complete in a couple of sittings. If you can't really write Roman numeral 2, you can skip. Write Roman numeral 3 and then go back to Roman numeral 2 after you've done some additional research. Number 2, you want to use the outline to keep the scope of each section in mind. Each Roman numeral section might be 2 or 3 pages long, not really a paragraph as it might have been in 098 or 101. Instead of having a paragraph per Roman numeral, you'll likely have a paragraph or more on each of your A, B, C sections, or even the 1, 2, 3s underneath the A's, B's, and C's. You can even put in the margins of your outline somewhere a page goal for each section. That's a good way to make sure that you don't write 10 pages of background and never get to your argument, for example. Then you want to use the outline to put yourself in control of the forward motion of your paper. You want to use topic sentences that indicate your points. You don't want to use quotation marks as topic sentences, and I'll be showing you how to do that in a second. You also don't want to let your sources pull you off track. Sometimes you dip into a source and it helps you to make a particular point, but you have to remember to pull yourself out of it, because if you just summarize all the points a particular author makes, your paper will end up being disorganized because many of your authors cover the same ground in different sections. And then you want to write topic sentences and transitions that connect each Roman numeral or ABC section to the next in your outline. And I'll show you that a little bit in this screencast below, but a little bit more in depth in the transition lesson that's coming up. So a few tricks. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this might actually work. If you have your proposal written and you've gotten it back, the easiest thing to do is to call it a rough draft and start working on it. We've got a little bit of a line spacing issue here that's not formatted properly, so now we fixed that. We've got our title. You probably have some corrections. Maybe I suggested you delete something that was, repetitive, or add something where you could say more. Maybe there's a wordy phrase that you could get rid of. Maybe you don't need in many ways. You can just say it affects development and behavior, period. So you want to go ahead and make all the editing changes that are necessary. This is a duplication of your thesis. So we want to go back here, and now what we have is something called a rough draft that has your introduction thesis edited. You've already written the introduction, so you can delete that part. That's 1 down. 6 to go, and 5 to go rather. You also have a roadmap for what you're going to write next, and you have your working bibliography, which you'll now call your works cited list, and you'll delete anything that you end up not using and add anything that you ended up finding after the proposal stage. So what I recommend doing then is just starting to write the topic sentences and the transitions for each of these major sections, and try to get that sort of plotted out so that then you're just filling out the paragraphs with additional information and information from your sources. So in this case, what I want to do is write a topic sentence that introduces this concept. So I'll use the phrase from my outline because it actually works. Television programming presents an enormous, throw an adjective in there, number of violent images. All right, so that introduces these next 2 paragraphs, and I'm going to specify entertainment statistics as well. Perhaps the most obvious source of these images is crime dramas, typical of evening programming. Notice that we're in single space. We got to get that double space again. All right. Beginning at 9:00 p.m. Most stations present shows like, etc., etc. Statistics indicate that these types of dramas show on average, I don't have that statistic, so I'll have to go back to my research and get it. Blank acts of violence per hour. All right, so I've set up this paragraph. I know that I have some gaps in it, but I have a good topic sentence. I also know what I need to get to next. I need to transition into the news coverage, and I'm going to have a new paragraph on that. So I will say something like this in that topic sentence. Surprisingly, news coverage is equally shows even more violence. We don't know. Whatever the research indicates. What makes this more disturbing is that the violence is real and the news is often shown at times when children are more likely to be watching. Statistics show that the average half hour of local news contains blank acts of violence. Okay, so you would fill that out. Additional details you can add from your own knowledge, you can add from your sources, etc. But you can see now we have covered both of these. We still need to transition, right, to the Roman numeral 3. So what we're going to do here, back here, is we're going to transition from Roman numeral 2 to Roman numeral 3. And we're going to include a phrase that reminds us of where we've been, but that emphasizes where we're going. So what we'll do is say, not only does television present all of this violence, I'll change my word choice there later, but children are watching many hours of it on a regular basis and doing so with a passive cognitive approach. Okay, pretty beefy topic, sentence, and transition here, but it does set up this. I'd have a section on how many hours they watch, a little bit on the way they watch it. I might even decide to move this part of this transition down to the next topic sentence. That would be perfectly fine. But now I can delete that because I've handled it. I'm working on this Roman numeral 3 section. When I'm done with it, I'll get rid of it. I'll make a transition to the next one. So I transition from where we've been, which is watching all of this violence, to the where I'm going, which is its effects. So watching all of this violence has numerous effects on children. One effect is on their moral development. Okay, and then I bring in my sources there. When you do it this way, you do sometimes have to play around a little bit with your paragraph spacing. Something happens sometimes it's a little funny and you gotta fix it. you can always get it right and then just push that stuff down so you have a little more space. But now you can see how easy this is. Basically, you've started with your introduction, you've refined it already, you've already refined your bibliography, right? And you're just going to go ahead and write your topic sentences, your transitions, you're going to fill in the blanks, take each one of these as a goal for you to try to get through and fill out and write about in a couple of days, and then move on to the next one. So I hope you see how helpful this can be, and it's time to go ahead and get started. Go ahead and revise your proposal, any parts of it I suggested that you change, and then start taking this approach. If it doesn't work for you, if you feel like it's interfering, then by all means feel free not to use the approach I've shown you here, but most students say that it is, quote, magical, unquote. Okay, talk to you later.